Before we begin today's show, I want you to do one thing for me. Are you ready? Grab your cell phone, go to your contacts page, and put in this phone number if it's not already there. This is the switchboard for the U.S. Capitol, and you can reach any of your senators or representatives at this number. Are you ready? 202-224-3121. You didn't get that? I'm going to say it again. Get your phone, pull up the contacts, make a contact for the U.S. Capitol switchboard. Ready? 202-224-3121. All right, thanks. Now on with the show. Hey everybody, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, coming to you for a super special bonus episode on a Monday, which we've never done before, because we have a really exciting topic and didn't want to wait on it. So I am joined here today with two very special guests. They are Peter and Red. Hi guys.
Hey Kelly.
Hey Kelly, how are you?
Good, good. So Peter and Red are Twitter superstars, which is how they came to my attention. And they're also really terrific grassroots activists. And so they recently went on a trip to DC, which we'll be talking about. But before we go too far into this, thought maybe the two of you could give us just a little bit of background into who you are, anything you want to share, how you got involved in activism.
So I started back in February, basically never really active on Twitter. And I think that's the case with a lot of my followers and a lot of people that are active nowadays on Twitter. And just wanted to put my opinion out there. And what happened was it just started resonating. And the more personal stories and the more information I put out there, the larger and larger it grew. And eventually, along with a lot of other people, and including Peter especially, it just started becoming a movement. And through a couple different situations, a couple different hashtags, I eventually became the size that I am and got introduced to Peter that way.
And so, Red, I've noticed through your hashtags as well that you're a veteran. So is that part of what you've been talking about on Twitter?
It's funny that you bring that up. So originally, it wasn't. And if you met me in real life, you probably wouldn't even know that I'm a veteran. It's something that I rarely talk about. But just through some of the things that are happening in Washington, I became almost an accidental activist in regards to veterans issues, just because I'm a little more forthcoming in regards to some of the challenges that I face as far as PTSD. And actually, Peter is one of the people that helped bring that out. Previous to the ACA battle, it wasn't something that I mentioned or something I was actively engaged with as far as my profile was concerned. But once I started going down that path and I started talking about the issues that I was facing personally, it became more and more of what I do on Twitter itself. So just a little bit of background. I was a medic in Iraq. I served for actually over a year in Iraq. And coming home, there was some challenges in regards to that. And what I found is expressing some of those challenges and some of the things I face on a day-to-day basis resonated with a lot of people, both inside the veterans community and outside the veterans community.
All right, great. And Peter, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself too?
Sure. I have only been on Twitter for about a year. It's almost my year anniversary, which I can't believe. Feels like a lot longer. It feels like 10 years. I am disabled, and I was disabled actually about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, and I was disabled by a spinal injury and subsequently was diagnosed with kidney cancer and then diagnosed with lupus. So I've had my share of health trials and a lot of other diagnoses, which I won't get into. We'll be here all night talking about them. And, I think lupus became probably the central focus. I mean, I survived, my cancer, fortunately, and I'm in remission, which is wonderful. And unfortunately with lupus, it's a progressive autoimmune disease, and it is progressing, and there are a lot of medications that I take, and I when I first was diagnosed, it was a mild case, and now it's turned into more of a moderate to severe case, and I have to take a biologic monthly, and I have to go to the hospital to it has to be infused into me over a couple of hours. It's very expensive, and it is something. The population of lupus is 90% women, 10% men, and when I came to Twitter, like Red, I wasn't really, I wanted to do something to empower myself because I was not very happy with the election results, and I was very concerned because Trump had mentioned throughout his campaign that he was going to take health care away. So I thought, bringing awareness to men with lupus would be, a positive, empowering thing. And slowly but surely, it turned into more of a, activist, advocate type thing, and trying to encourage people to call their congresspeople and senators. And I met Red along the way, and we did a Faces of ACA campaign together, and I really got to know him, and we started advocating together, and it's just we have the same mindset, and kind of whatever it takes to make it happen, but in a positive and encouraging and supportive way. Been working together for, my God, about 6 months now, so it's 7 months maybe. Yeah, it's been more than half my time on Twitter. So anyway, before this, my activism was voting, and so that's what I considered my activism.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry about all of your health problems, but I think it's really inspiring that you've been able to share those stories with other people, and that you've been able to use that as a catalyst for activism.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, can you guys talk a little bit about this trip to DC, maybe for anyone who hasn't heard about it already on Twitter? How did that come about? What was the idea behind it? How long did you spend planning it?
Well, I can start by saying that, this was our second trip together, and this is my sixth trip to Washington, which somebody with chronic illness, and we both live with chronic illness. It's not easy. Traveling is more difficult. I think it started with me. I went down there during the skinny repeal just to just felt like I wanted to go to D.C. I've never been to D.C., and I just felt a real calling. I had started working with my Congresswoman, Carolyn Maloney, and who I met through Twitter and advocating, and I just felt a calling to go to D.C., and I just kind of walked in and out of different senators' offices and saw how easy it was just to talk to these offices and how welcoming they were, and on both sides, on the Democratic, and I learned how important it was to talk to Republicans. And Red and I went in August together. That was July, and we went in August, and I started learning how to set up these meetings and cultivate these relationships with these offices. And, several trips later, I basically represent cancer survivors, the people who depend on the ACA, and that patient population, and Red represents veterans and who seek medical attention outside the VA, and I'll let him speak to that. But when we go there together, it's we're I don't want to say we attack them like two sides, but it gives that diverse population. But anyway, that's kind of, setting up these appointments, you build a relationship with these offices. Usually it's through a legislative assistant or a health policy person, which is definitely, more influential. And you just continue the relationship through email, and basically you just ask for an appointment. You go through the senator's or the congressperson's email, and it's I know it sounds like very basic, very simple, and it actually really is. And when you set up these appointments and speak to these people, a lot of constituents share their stories with both of us. And, for instance, we spoke with Senator Grassley out of Iowa, and, neither one of us are from Iowa, but because we were representing constituents, we were able to get into.
But yeah, and so I think what Peter's hitting on is and actually the reason why Peter and I became connected in the first place is during the initial ACA repeal, when it was in the House, a hashtag went viral, I am a pre-existing condition. And just by the fates, however they aligned, Peter and I were the loudest voices on Twitter in regards to that specific hashtag. And I knew the power of Twitter just a little bit, but I never understood how far-reaching it can actually go. And all of a sudden I turn on the evening news and the hashtag's up there, and they're sharing stories of these people that have pre-existing conditions like Peter and I. And what I was understanding from this is that the stories that we tell individually have immense power when it comes to dealing with lawmakers and having them understand that there's a person behind the numbers. There's a person behind any of the policy decisions that they make. And again, the advocacy kind of grew between Peter and I, and people started sharing their stories with us through one of the campaigns that Peter put together, the Faces of the ACA. What we were trying to do is put, again, a picture and a person behind these disabilities, these challenges that everyone faces, then trying to find a way to go and give that to our senators, to our representatives, in order for them to make a more informed decision as far as what policies they're putting forward. And luckily, a grassroots effort like that was able to go and save the ACA. And I'm not saying it's exclusively Peter and I, and in fact, it was everyone that was leaving their messages, showing their pictures, and calling up their senators and representatives and giving them those stories in order to go and put, again, that personal piece behind the decisions that they were making. It just led eventually to us, Peter going down to Washington, us going the first time, Peter going multiple times after that, and then us going this last time, this previous week.
Yeah, there's this video going around right now, sort of going viral, about one of Jeff Flake's constituents talking to him and saying, I may die if you take healthcare away. And
Right.
You can see it in Jeff Flake's eyes, right? You can see that he's affected by this. I mean, I have no idea if it will eventually change his vote or not, but he clearly understands that there's a real person, and it's really powerful to see that sort of thing. So I really commend you guys on putting those faces with those stories, and finding a way to talk to people in Congress, about constituents as real people. I think that's something that's really missing in our politics right now.
We heard that a lot when we were there about how important that is, and as important as, and it is really crucial to call and email. I mean, we heard that from like every office, Democrat, Republican. We heard it from every office, how much of a difference it makes. But what we did hear even more is exactly what you said, is that putting a face, like actually visiting an office, whether it's district office or whether it's Washington office, and actually sitting down, seeing that face, it really just it puts a person, a name, you're not just a number, you're not just like a statistic, you're a living human being, and so important. But we also understand that everyone doesn't have that ability to do it. So, those who can should, and those who can't should call and email.
We go into each of these situations also